What's up, Rockstars? I have a quick news video for you. We're going to go over some really cool stuff happening over at CMON. We're going to be talking about some brand new entries from some beloved game series that are back on Kickstarter. We just got a ton to discuss, so let's dive right in. Thank you to my channel sponsor, Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell. And I meant it right in Wonderland's War Shards of Madness expansion and reprint. Now, this is a miniature expansion, and I know I just got you excited, but I meant miniature as in small, not miniature as in awesome little plastic men that we like to, move around a game board and paint like losers. No, this is actually pretty cool, though, that it's doing so. Over 300,000 already, with over 5,000 backers. I think it's great. I know a buddy of mine had been playing this and was enjoying this as Wonderland's War. Seems to be quite good. Imagine that. And when you have a good product, it sells well. Imagine that. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, so what is this new, see 8.3, top 400. Oh, there's that. Okay, cool. Anyway, and there are miniatures, and the deluxe version at least. But let's go ahead and talk about this. $15. This is, to me, well, it's cool. It's cool. I love how you can just get a deck of cards and it can add so much value to a game, especially a game I think like this. I think it'll really benefit from this. However, this still to me is very much we need something new to be on Kickstarter or they won't let us reprint. So this is a required thing. In other words, it's one step above a soundtrack, right? Where it's like, this is a soundtrack campaign / please buy our stuff. This is here's a quick little deck of cards that changes a few things. Please buy our stuff, which is fine. I don't fault them for it. I'm just explaining this isn't something revolutionary. Don't feel like you're like, oh my gosh, my game is incomplete without this. That being said, it's only $15 for some cards. Not bad. 35 card expansion. Got some pretty art. Got some cool stuff going on. There's quest cards, battle marker, shard cardboard tokens. So you get a few tokens actually too. And then the actual Wonderlandian cards themselves. So very cool to see all of that. Now the deluxe version, $115. That is less than a normal core box version these days, as you well know, because they like to just pump so many stretch goals in that sucker that just break the balance and you don't need, and doubles the shipping cost and all that crap. You don't need any of that. Instead, you can get this. It's in this nice little fancy box here. I think it actually showed it up here. Yeah, I mean, it just looks like that. And it's got all this stuff in it. Super cool. I mean, it's got the standees, but it's also got the miniatures as well. A whole tray full of them, as you can see. So yeah, overall, I think very, very cool. I dig that. I don't know. I've always been kind of hit or miss on whether or not I appreciate renders after a game's delivered. I'm of the mindset to where if your game is beautiful enough, you can just take really pretty pictures of it, and then that's great. It's something I suggested actually for Uprising when they did their campaign. I think it worked out very well. It showed how pretty this game is with the real components. I mean, people own this game. You don't really need renders anymore. It's not a non-existing game, if that makes sense. So I still think that's my preference, but at the end of the day, I understand it. You want to show the renders off. It's whatever. But one thing I thought that was super cool is this. Why back now? Because one of the things they're not saying is Kickstarter exclusive and painting themselves in a bind or something like that, right? And it says retail is not currently planned. That is all you need. This, right? Just this. You don't even necessarily have to say best price, because at retail there could be some crazy 65% off, or we need to get rid of our stock sale. So it might not be the cheapest, right? Or like deluxe availability, that's fine too. It's pretty much saying the same thing as retail is not currently planned. But you don't even necessarily have to say first. You don't even necessarily have to say cheapest. You just have to say, look, guys, right now we're trying to fund this, and this is how we're going forward with it. If something happens in the future, that's the future. But right now, this is it. And that's it. You're not diving into FOMO, but you're being realistic as well and letting them know, hey, don't just bank on it being there. You might miss out. That being said, the future is open to us as a company. Don't paint yourself in a corner. I really dig this. The retail is not currently planned. Just say that. Just say that. All right. And by the way, this is not selling well because of FOMO. This is selling well because it's a good game that people are enjoying. Idols of Torment, only 18 hours left, so it'll be the last time I'm covering it while it's live. I wanted to actually get with Black Magic Craft and kind of talk with them and all that, but I just haven't had the time with my wife's procedure and stuff like that, and taking care of kids and just general work stuff and everything get in the way. But this is still super cool. Again, you can get into this if you just want the rules for like $15. But it's a very cool little skirmish game. It kind of reminds me of Judgment Eternal Champions, and you can turn the terrain. I've kind of mentioned that a few times now. Turning the terrain, manipulation of the game board, where the game board is changing as you play, is one of my all-time favorite mechanics I see in some games, and I always really enjoy it when that happens. I love the fact that the game board is changing, whether it's Blood Rage, right, where the place is just demolishing, but just it's always cool to see, right, whether you're planting that and changing it yourself like in this one, or it's changing dynamically around you. It's just always cool to see. Next up, we also have Tainted, Grail, Kings of Ruin. Broke over 3 million and still 5 days left, so doing quite well. Again, they're not doing any of this FOMO stuff either. Notice you're not seeing any GameFound exclusive stuff here. You're just getting $8 here, $10 here. Just note, please, that first of all, shipping is a thing, and then second of all, that a savings is only a savings if you were going to get it anyway. Otherwise, it's either the price it is, or you're buying something you wouldn't have bought otherwise, in which case you're actually buying more, right? And so just spend responsibly. I've been trying to focus more on deals and the good deals that are still out there. I'm not saying this is a bad deal. I'm just saying for you and what you will play, look at what you did with Tainted Grail if you had it already, or similar games, and then back according to that, okay? So with that, let's go ahead and move on. We have Stormlight Premium Interest. The last time I'll be covering this one as well. 30 hours to go. So really wrapping up here. If you want some really cool miniatures that are like collectible, that are tied to the IP of the Stormlight Archive, this is your place to go. But I will say $15 for pre-painted 75mm miniature, statue, whatever you want to call it, figurine. I feel on an IP is actually quite good. Though it does depend on how it's printed, right? We'll see. I've never seen any mention about operations, which are the amount of procedures, the amount of things they do to a miniature. Dotting the I's would be one, putting a decal on would be one. So you count the procedures, and that's applying wash, or applying blue, or lining the coat with white, or whatever it might be. So I'm not sure how they'll turn out, so please forgive me if they're crap. I guess I will cover it again if they are. I'll let you guys know. Moving on. Deep Madness Reborn and reprint. This is pretty much just launched. Still 13 days ago, almost 200,000 raised so far from 1,670. Definitely not the turnout I think they've traditionally had, but I also don't think they put nearly as much effort into this one when it comes to promotion. We're going to be talking about promotion and here in just a little bit. It's very interesting, kind of what's going on in that space. So some kind of proof in the pudding, as it were. Really excited to actually kind of share that with you guys. So we'll be talking about that before, but either way, there wasn't a big advertising thing. There wasn't even a huge amount of outreach. I mean, besides me covering this, there's just not a whole lot, and that's not to belittle anybody else that's doing that. I just mean the company themselves just kind of threw this on there to get it, and then they're going. It's a community-driven campaign where like they're selling the scenarios, right? But it was all made by like community fans, and then they have some new really cool renders and some updated rule books, stuff like that, right? So there's definitely some stuff here, and these minis are really good. Look at that thing. That thing is incredible. I'm not trying to diss that at all, so please forgive me if you think that. I just mean that it's a low cost to them, so it's mostly profit for them, which is I think exactly what they're trying to do. One statement I will have, because I know I've seen this mentioned a few times, where they're like, well, Dawn of Madness is delayed and they keep making new campaigns. Yes and no. One thing I think that's important to note is that they are doing reprints. This is now the third reprint, or the second reprint, third time with Deep Madness, and they've done Twisted Fables twice. And I much prefer a reprint with very controlled and limited scope and cost to them than something like, here's another game that we don't even have a rule book for, right? Then they learned their lesson when it came to Dawn of Madness about doing that, because I think that's really what they did. And then they kind of had to figure it out afterwards and paying their price for it. But what they're not willing to do is do that again, which is why they didn't just spam Celestial right away either. Instead, they've been doing these reprints that they can do, that they can afford. That's essentially, they don't have their like an online store presence, and so this is their online store presence. It's just, hey, it's a pre-order form for more Deep Madness or more Twisted Fables or something like that, so that the cash flow can still come in and they can focus on working on their actual games like Dawn of Madness, like getting Celestial ready and actually ready to go to Kickstarter, as opposed to just spamming new stuff, which is our worry, right? That's the Peterson Games stuff. You see that all the time, right? Lazy Squire Games, I think, has been doing that. Even some ones that I quite like, I think Kingdoms Forlorn was kind of like that with Into the Unknown, just when it comes to like, we got to release this now, right? Which I think is what Dawn of Madness was too. They just needed to release it at the time. They needed to get a cash influx. But now that they've kind of have some properties, they're just re-releasing that kind of over and over again with a very low cost, controlled scope, which I think is the proper way to handle a situation like this. So I'm totally fine with companies continuing to offer it. If nothing else, it means that you don't really have to feel that FOMO. Deep Madness has been available 3 times now. So even if you can't afford it now, maybe you can on the 4th round. I wouldn't be surprised to see it again. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. I think it's great to allow more people to get the game. I'm all for that always. I've never been one to be like, no, I only want a select few people that happen to have the money and be into board games and be looking at Kickstarter for these 13 days to be able to get it, kind of thing. That's stupid. No, that's dumb. I'm all for it. I think that's great. I think it's a proper way to go about it. RONE Invasion, still not quite funded, but still 2 weeks to go, 14 days. Right around 500 backers, so they're kind of hovering there. It'll be interesting to see if they can really not only get past the threshold, but solidify past the threshold. I heard it's actually quite good. The screws are a little tiny because they, if you think about it, I mean, the dice are not super big, and so then when you screw that in there, they're really small too. But you're using it kind of like mana a little bit, using it to pay for different things. But mostly it's a card game with dice, so it's a dice plus cards. So double the randomness, I'm not quite sure there. Next up, the Stifling Dark, a horror board game. I've shared this a few times now, so 21 days to go, over 100,000 backed. It's got this cool flashlight line of sight system. This is a 1 versus many, so one guy is like the monster or the killer or whatever, and then there's 4 other survivors that are trying to like find clues and then escape or kill them or do whatever. It's a hidden movement game. It looks really fun. I'm not gonna spend too much time scrolling through it all. You guys can do that. By the way, there's links to all sorts of stuff down in the description below. I should have mentioned that earlier. I mean, a ton of stuff down there. So feel free to check out everything I have linked there. Temple of Horrors 2.0, 39,000. Again, that is above the threshold that they were at for the first one, but not by a whole lot. But it does have one more day to go. We'll see if it raises any more. Right around 463 backers, but it was great to see them do better this time. I really enjoyed that. They took a lot of feedback when it comes to that, and that's great. I think it really is. All right, now after that we have Nexus Arena Combat, but this is an odd one. If you look at it, it still has like 42 hours to go. So, and that's at time of recording, so a little bit less for you guys, but not too bad. 1,202 from like 8 backers. I think earlier it was even 9 backers, so it's like even a little bit less. This is like the full campaign, sort of, kind of. This is actually something kind of interesting. There's one update, and it's just an explanation from Dverse talking about how they purposely didn't advertise this. This was just on GameFound, as you know, and on GameFound it successfully funded, and it's printing. It's actually going to be here like around the end of the year, early next year is kind of what the estimate is. It's like literally in production right now. So it's a really good, safe bet for you guys. That being said, what they wanted to do was essentially see that they thought that the only people that were really finding them were people that were sent, and that otherwise Kickstarter was not providing opportunity to actually be seen. There's a few things there, I think, that kind of break that, but it's still a very cool idea. First of all, the amount of, it's like a snowball effect. So it's kind of like me when I first started, or really when you first start anything, right? Like you got to kind of sell yourself. If to word it in a blunt way, you kind of have to whore yourself out, right? You really have to like sell your product. But the traction that brings is what actually goes. So if you didn't know, Kickstarter is not just a thing where I can go click here, click discover, click recommended for me, or search by all tabletop games, right? That's not, I mean, it has that, but for the most part, it tracks engagement. So like comments, it's why you see so many games or campaigns put in a poll, and instead of making it where you can just vote, they say vote in the comments, comment to let us know, because those comments actually drive that traction. And Kickstarter floats you to the top if people are clicking on your little picture a lot, if they're backing it a lot, and if they're commenting and engaging a lot with it. So all of that helps it be seen there, and on other things like KickTrack that track Kickstarter. So there's a whole host of things. And then as you bubble up, that means more people notice, which means more people like me make a comment on it. Even though you didn't advertise this, I'm showing it right now because I found it, but I would have found it even easier if it was higher on that list, right? Or if Kickstarter decided to incorporate that in an email to me, or all those sorts of things. And all of that is driven from not inaction, but action. But that doesn't mean that the system doesn't support that action. Hopefully that makes sense. I do think by and large people are sent to these things, but that doesn't necessarily even have to be from me. It could be from a Facebook ad or any other number of things, right? So even just word of mouth, which again, the more people seeing it from your efforts, the more people are naturally going to see it. So it's an interesting take. And of course, this is happening right after the GameFound one. So anybody who was paying attention to that just recently probably did it, right? And so you don't know how many people would have done it on both or anything like that. I mean, so it's a little odd, but you know, whatever. It's not gonna cost them a whole lot, right? And they made a cool $1,000 extra. So that's nice. And they connected it with 8 people that I guess would not perhaps have gotten it without the campaign. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, very weird. That being said, if you are wanting to back it, it's here still. And again, you'll be driven back to GameFound for the Pledge Manager anyway. Okay, we're going to be talking about some updates now, and we're going to get into the big heavy command stuff here real soon. Some really cool stuff. This is Forgotten History Mammothodus, which is kind of a fun word. Over 35 miniatures. Wow. It's been canceled recently, and it's kind of, I guess, interesting. I think, first of all, the first impression is quite good, minus this. I don't know why Promoted by BackerKit is the very first image you see, but that's really stupid. Nobody cares about that. That is something that you're probably, I'm assuming, obligated to do based off the BackerKit sign up you had. In which case, if put it like way the heck down here somewhere, like way down here. Like, I don't need to see that crap. So, all right, let's go to what happened. Okay, so first of all, I think the art looks cool. I think the typography looks neat. Like, it's a very cool looking thing. There's a little bit of a text wall there, but not too bad. There's cool images and whatnot. Fairly decent renders. We'll talk about those in a little bit. And cool designs along to go with the art. So that's honestly, I think, all good. So far, so good, right? I think the map looks decent enough, so that's fine. And then you start seeing these. Now, I will say, I think the gray renders actually look better than the colored renders. And the colored renders remind me of like watching like some of the early CG stuff like Beast Wars or Reboot or something like that. Shout out, I guess, if you know what I'm talking about there. It kind of reminds me of that. Like, this is like Rhinox or something to me. That's how I see it in my head. But these renders actually look pretty good, even the zoomed in ones here, but they're not all created equal. So do you see kind of the crispness of this? But then if you go down a little bit farther to some of these other ones, specifically the, I don't know if they're cats or whatever, there's this next group here, but notice how blurry it starts getting. Look at the owl here. That is going to look terrible as a final miniature. It looks terrible as a render, unless as a final miniature. So that's kind of a bummer. And that softness while on the owl, notice the big blob of arrows he has that's barely noticeable, or even the softness around the face, or just how grainy it looks, right? It's definitely blown up. It's definitely a smaller image by the looks of it. And I don't know if a different person rendered these or not, but like it just looks blurry, soft, and out of focus, which isn't the best way to show off the game. So I think that's partially the issue. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that's kind of a bummer with it. But yeah, it's I also kind of worry about the English here. I know it says Houston, Texas, but then it's like toy. It's kind of a weird thing here. But if we go to the update here, This is like a Freudian slip. All of this would have prevented us from reaching our goals at the end of the company. I'm assuming they meant campaign, not company, but it's stuff like that I like, you got to proofread and kind of really put that in there. But I don't know. I need to look at it a bit more, but that was kind of the big things I noticed. Was a few kind of spelling issues, some oddity around the very first thing you see before you have to like scroll to see the game past this, and that's kind of a bummer. And then of course the renders being kind of all over the place, which is typically never a good sign. Darkest Dungeon. This is kind of interesting. So this is an update they did finally. And one of the things they're doing is they're posting the whole rulebook. So you guys can see the rulebook and both how decent it is and how bad it is. I will have a review for you guys pretty soon about it. I'm trying to really put in a lot of game time in. The guys on my Discord via Patreon, they definitely understand. Been showing them some pictures, but I'm trying to really, I know that's important because a lot of people, it's going to be their first game. I know a lot of people have built up a lot of like, well, this better be good kind of stuff in their heads. And I want to make sure I give the game as fair a shake as possible and really spend my time with it. So when I do provide criticisms, that I'm very confident in them. So please, in my first campaign, we wiped, so we had to restart as well. But we're doing good on the second campaign through it, and already farther. So that's good. But I'm working on it. But the rulebooks are here, and there's actually a print and play version, though I'm assuming I could do this with my copy I have right now. So I'll be sure to do that as well, just to kind of see what the Mr. Weber boss is all about. That seems kind of fun. This, however, isn't. It says, hearken, fair warning, this week we will begin to promote the availability of our Darkest Dungeon Overstock online via email campaigns and with active promotion. Please be aware that this is our normal practice and that any pre-order product will not be dispatched from our distribution hubs until every Wave 1 English backer who made their contribution pledge has left the hub. And in recognition of your support and standing by us in these challenging times, we wanted to give you a heads up. We plan to send out an email that contains 50% discount code applicable to the entire Darkest Dungeon range on our site. So just the Wave 1 English products right now to all backers in the near future. And you can't use that with other sales, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's break this down. I think there's two things to kind of look out here. The first one is really just the fact that you have two things you need as a company. You need to be financially safe, and you need to be able to sell product. And that need to sell product is a long-term thing. In other words, you need to not be like super hated. You need to have good relationships with consumers and good word of mouth so that when you make a product to sell, people buy it, right? And that selling then needs to provide that. What I worry that's happening here is that in an attempt to get the number one, the financially secure, they're killing the number two. And I feel like you need both, because Mythic Games doesn't just need money now. They need money to be able to, continue as a company and make new games and sell new things and have people want to give them money for that. And so your public image is huge, and I don't think it can properly be priced. I mean, maybe it can, I don't know, but I doubt selling a couple copies online is that price. So why is it that this, I feel, will be negative? Well, first of all, I mean, it's the fair warning is, this wouldn't exist if you thought there was an issue. At my old work, there was a common saying that they had us kind of repeat over and over again in our training every year. And it was, imagine what you're doing is published in a newspaper. It's an older saying. Published as a news article title. Would you be happy to hear that title? Would that be a great title to hear? And if the answer is no, you probably shouldn't do it then, right? It's like just realize if a journalist got a hold of this, what would they say? What would they report on? And is that something you want? And I feel like it's just a sniff test, right? I feel like it doesn't quite pass the sniff test. Now, why doesn't it? Now, first of all, note that they're talking about just the people who did the contribution pledge. The contribution pledge is the extra shipping they charged, which is far from normal practice. So to say it's normal practice isn't true, because the normal practice is to deliver the game, and with the delivery of the game, have extra copies based off your fill order, so you got a better price per copy, so that you can have replacement bits. If people need a new mini or whatever, you can take it out of those. You can butcher and cannibalize those copies to essentially fulfill fixes to people who got 2 copies of the same mini, or stuff like that, a damaged card deck, or whatever it might be. And so you have that, and then you have some to bring to conventions to sell, and just kind of sell online at your dinky store, or whatever it might be, run demo copies of. Regardless, you have that extra, right? I mean, it's not like you go to the manufacturer and say, I need 13,467 of these. It's no, you just say, I need 15,000. And then that little bit extra just goes to making sure you can provide customer support and selling some copies that might be there. But again, it's just kind of like a nice to have sort of. It's not like it's a retail push, which would be almost a whole separate order, because you'd probably want to manufacture them. With your manufacturer, you probably need to stagger it, depending on their capacity, of course, and a host of other things. But that's the normal practice, is you're delivering it to everybody, but you're only delivering it to the people that paid this contribution pledge, which is abnormal, not because they didn't pay shipping, because like I get that. If I buy something on eBay and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is great, but I'm not going to pay for shipping. Guess who doesn't get the product? I don't get the product. You got to pay for shipping. Totally get that. First of all, shipping and freight are different, but regardless, the problem is that it like increased, right? It was like suddenly it's like, oh, we need more. It was, you agreed, you showed this, and you said this, and then there's more. If I buy something on eBay and I advertise it as $5 shipping, and then they dilly-dally about, and then suddenly they're like, oh crap, it's more expensive. How about $20? Well, then suddenly I'm like, well, no, that's not what we agreed on, and now it's their fault, not mine. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. And I think that's kind of the issue there. And by fault, I mean the fault in the person's head, regardless of any kind of actual fault, which could be debated ad nauseum, and I'm not interested in that. So it's not normal practice at all to do this. What really hurts this, though, and what hurts the public image isn't so much that. It's the fact that there are extra copies willing to sell. The whole idea, the whole pitch of the contribution pledge, as they call it, was that you will get your game no matter what. They just need to figure out how to bring your product over there. Now, the people who are willing to pay for it obviously can do that. And then they just need to do sales and do other stuff to be able to bring the other ones in. But they brought others in. But instead of sending them out to people who couldn't afford, maybe they lost their job, who knows what, maybe they just refused, I don't care, didn't pay the contribution pledge. Instead of sending it out, they're selling it to just new people. So it feels kind of icky, right? I mean, that if the copies were there, if you were able to put that on the freight and send it over, well, then give it to the people that already paid you for that product. Like it's gross. It sucks that I get the idea, but there's no way they're going to be raising enough to make it worth that cost of public image. I think people need to protect that more. And it's hard to bring back. So that kind of sucks a lot, for anybody who didn't pay, because now you know that they shipped copies and didn't send them to you. Instead, they're selling them. Yeah, that's rough. Fair warning indeed. It really sucks that they're going that route. I feel like there has to be some other better option. Moving on. CMON posted this. This is a little grainy. It's because YouTube, for the thumbnails, will only accept up to 720p images. So, of course, when it's blown up, this is what you get. And in the preview one, it's always the thumbnail that's blown up. So we've got a beast of a surprise for you. This comes in at 34 hours of time of recording. It comes in on Friday, my time, at 10 a.m. my time. And it shows Zombicide Second Edition, Black Plague, Undead or Alive, Invader, Rising Sun, Ankh, Cthulhu Death May Die, and Mass of Darkness. So a whole lot of different things there. And yeah, I don't know what's going on here. It's a surprise announcement. I will let you guys know. So tune in on Saturday. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. And we'll discuss. We'll see what's going on. Kind of interested. I don't know if it's just some new campaign stuff. I don't know. I don't know what could include all of these. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe it's another like time machine, though that didn't end up well for a lot of people. A buddy of mine bought Hate and had to wait like a year to ship it from the warehouse because I believe they sold too much and just had to go make some more, but whatever. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what that is. I'll let you guys know. They are sharing some Cthulhu Death May Die stuff. Here's Smeagol. Golem. Ghast. This is Gas here. The weird-headed kind of monkey man-ish. I don't know. He's weird. He looks probably fairly normal size, perhaps even smaller. So kind of an interesting one to share. I'm assuming some kind of new minion they have. And then, of course, there's this one. This guy, Leon, kind of reminds me a little bit of Sully from Uncharted. I think it's the cigar, but it's also the Hawaiian shirt and stuff like that. That looks like a fun model, honestly. I love it. I love the fact that he's got his socks and you know, he's just... It's great. I think it's awesome. So that looks super fun. I don't know what else they're going to have, but I'm excited to see it. I don't know what his unique thing would be, though, right? It's not like Fire Starting Girl or anything like that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Leon does with the gas. But I don't know, looking cool. So I will let you guys know, of course, as they release more information, hopefully not just pictures of miniatures, but it's come on, they're probably advertising not with gameplay, but with miniatures. It's pretty typical. Anyway, that's it. That's all I had, guys. I know this was a longer one. Appreciate you sticking through it. If there's anything that you think I missed that people should know about, please let us all know in the comments below. Be sure to read them on, and maybe you'll turn me on to something. Maybe I'll be able to add to the description, which, of course, has a ton of links. So go and check that out as well. And with that, take care, guys. Bye.